A beautiful old house. It was built nearly 200 years ago. It still stands as sturdy as the New England farmer who built it. And it has the grace and dignity of a period when life centered around a family, a home, a garden full of flowers, orchards full of apples. The house seems unoccupied, but it is not deserted. The voices of children are heard. This is the pond back of the house. The perfect place for two sturdy boys to play with boats. But this boat is no New England boat. It is no Gloucester dory or Cape Cod catboat. It is roughly hewn out of a single piece of wood. It has outriggers like the native craft of the South Seas. It has a lump of coral rock on a rope of vines for an anchor. Who brought a native outrigger boat all the way from the South Seas to New England as a plaything for boys? Girls are content to watch. After all, boats are toys for boys. Girls prefer to play with dolls, or perhaps with pet kittens. Pet kittens? These are hunting leopards. Whose children are these who have hunting leopards for pets? Two cars and a heavily loaded truck near the barn. You've seen pictures of these cars before. You have read about them in the papers. They're the cars of the Dennis Asiatic Expedition, and they have just returned loaded with trophies from an amazing journey of 16,000 miles across Asia. You know the people who live in this house and whose children you saw. You have seen their famous films, Una, Dark Rapture, Wheels Across Africa. Armand Dennis has traveled and made films in almost every country on the globe. His wife, Leila Roosevelt, once drove a truck around the world in 14 months.
To prove that a woman could do things just as risky as a man and just as exciting, she made the trip around the world, New York to New York, in a second-hand Ford truck. Mother was a niece of Theodore Roosevelt. And so, of course, the name attracted attention. And when Mother was looking for another woman to join her, she put an ad in the paper. And there were so many people, so many women answering this ad. Of course, they had no idea what the trip would be like. They thought making a trip with a Roosevelt was going to be a very elegant thing to do. On the contrary, she just needed a mechanic. And all of these women came to the Waldorf Astoria, so many of them, that they had to have their offices, or set up an office, in the ballroom. And it was crowded with people, women who had no idea, didn't know where they were going. They just simply wanted to make a trip with Leila Roosevelt. Once they started, nobody was really quite aware in Europe what they were doing. But when they were getting to the Middle East and in dangerous areas, why then the local people who were helping them, the mayor of a town who would get the men to come out and dig them out of the mud. This was a real problem in those areas. The truck was constantly being bogged down in mud.
This is a letter from Armand Dennis, Candy, Colombo, August 2nd, 1933. Dear Heidi, the enclosed letter for you from Leila arrived today, including the photographs. Please communicate the photographs showing the car to Filson in New York to see if he can make any use of it in publicity. The latest news of Leila is from Tehran, planning to cross Afghanistan instead of Baluchistan, as she has been promised all kinds of help by the King of Afghanistan's brother, who is the ambassador to Persia. This will further delay her, and I'll probably be without more news until she reaches India, presumably through the Khyber Pass and Peshawar. That's a good 1,000 miles in Afghanistan. I hope you saw the children in London and found them well, and that all was well when you returned to the United States. With love, Harmony. P.S. Just before the airmail was to leave, I received a cable from Leila. Clutch burned, forced to return to Tehran, leaving tomorrow. Miserable delay. This, curiously enough, was sent to Singapore instead of to me here.
Our mother had intended to leave us in Belgium, but those grandparents were too old to take on 3 very rambunctious children. So she took us to a boarding school in England, and off she went from Belgium and started across Europe to Asia and on around the world.
We left New York on March 2nd last year on this boat that's behind us here. We started off to Antwerp, where we made our original, actual driving, through France and Italy, Yugoslavia and Bulgaria. In Bulgaria we had a rather hard time, principally because the natives there, instead of nodding when they say for yes, they nod for no and shake their heads for yes, which complicated matters a great deal for us. Then into Turkey, where we had our worst roads of all, although the people there were incredibly hospitable. We had average 2.5 flat tires a day. And how many bridges did we break there?
Just 3.
Broke 3 bridges. Instead of burning our bridges behind us, I think we broke them behind us.
They were the first to go on in a truck alone, without having half a dozen guards to protect them. They went alone, and they did the trip because there were a lot of problems. The truck would break down. They had to change tires, of course, all the time, and they would have to find local people who would pull the truck out of the mud with bullocks or whatever they had, and it was a dangerous trip too. They had to carry a gun to protect themselves from bandits.